welcome to a special episode of Anime Plus. With me, I have two returning guests, John and Adam, who you may remember from the GQX episode. Today, we're going to be talking about Iron-Blooded Orphans.
Hello, my name is John.
I'm still very much Adam.
Iron-Blooded Orphans takes place in the post-disaster universe. The disaster that is implied by this is the Calamity War.
It occurred approximately 300 years before the beginning of the series. It is revealed sort of incrementally along the way through just conversations within the show that the onus of the Calamity War was honestly very similar to the Butlerian Jihad in Dune, which is a war between thinking machines and humanity, where they built technology that escalated to a point where they had mobile armors which functioned as independent AI machines, and they evolved to a point of harvesting and killing massive numbers of people. And so the humans had to come together and they created an organization, Gjallarhorn, which then found technology that was able to combat those machines.
All the Gundams.
Yeah, the 72 Gundam frames, which are all named after the 72 demon lords of the Ars Gautier. The beauty of this series is that they don't give you a lot of the information. They tell you that there are 72, but they don't tell you how many are still around. And it's weird to think that we're 300 years out, and there are some that are still pristinely preserved, but others are lost or completely decimated. So, and we don't know, but the unknowns are kind of the really cool thing.
We open with this company, CGS, that is working on Mars. They get employed by one Cordelia Ina Bernstein as a transport group to try to get her to Earth because she needs to get to a very important meeting.
It's a
summit.
World government
like
meeting.
It's like a summit
where she is going to try to argue for Martian independence, allowing for Mars to have its own independent sphere, basically equivalent to the Xeon Earth Federation
instead of
thing
that
we have in the UC.
Instead of the role that is frequently held by the colonies in UC or in Wing or in Seed or in over and over again, Mars plays the role of the colonies. They're the remote, living space
there are still even colonies in IBO.
Yeah,
we
just
see
not,
several of them.
It's not to the same scale.
And so she contracts CGS to try to get her safely to Earth. From there, we get introduced then to the antagonistic faction that is Gjallarhorn, as they are trying to stop her from reaching Earth in a bid to keep the status quo that is the current relationship between Mars and planet Earth. We have a badass first battle, and
dude, yeah, we have a badass first battle of a bunch of kids in
mobile workers.
Essentially Jeeps, getting the shit smashed out of them by trained soldiers in mobile suits.
In the sense that we get to see the Barbatos almost instantly in the series just wreck base.
The Crusade security guard, their main base, they take their only generator of power.
Yeah, so the CGS base has been using the Barbatos Gundam frame as their power generator because Ahab generators, I believe, are limitless.
Basically, yeah.
So they've had the whole base plugged into this thing in the basement, and they all think it's just a piece of shit. And Orga and Mika together came up with this plan to secretly install the Alea Vignana system into the cockpit of it, which traditionally has only been used in these little mobile worker Jeeps. I don't want to call them tanks. They look more like tanks, but they're not like tanks.
APCs.
Yeah, sure. Yeah,
Armored personnel carriers.
I mean, later they have them with weapons on them and stuff, but at this point, they're just like mining equipment. They took that Alea Vignana and dumped it into this Gundam frame, and which was anathema, I believe is the best word.
Yeah.
It's a no-go. You cannot do that kind of thing.
So after this, we end up getting the revolution of the kids.
Well, hold on, though. I think that there's an important detail in this first battle. So after he wrecks all the people, there's a guy that comes back who's the commanding officer.
Oh, yeah.
Crank comes back. He's like, I get that these are kids. I don't want to kill a bunch of kids. And he brings his subordinate with him, Ein Dalton. And he says, all right,
1v1 me and Barons.
Let's do a 1v1. Whoever wins. And they're like, sure. And Mika goes out there and kills the living shit out of him.
Just almost instantly.
Smashes him down, and then he's talking, and Mika's wham, and just cuts him off, kills him.
That was the cool part too, is Mika didn't kill him by killing him with the Barbatos. Dude opens his thing and is like, Mika shoots him with a pistol.
That's a repeating theme. Is Mika's really good at looking people in the face, Quentin Tarantino style, and just straight doming them with his handgun.
He
that dude is
I think he's 100% hit rate too with that pistol.
The thing about it is, like, you can kind of tell very early on that Mika is clearly on the spectrum in some way.
Oh my God! Understatement.
Far more so than like just the normal new type spectrum.
I'll say he's new type coded.
He has like sort of an analytical and like clinical sort of understanding of emotions and human relations, but he on his own doesn't have an ability to react to those things.
He is probably like clinically a psychopath.
They take over, they rename the organization, and they take on the contract with Cadelia.
With Tekkadan taking on the contract to get Cadelia to Earth, we then get probably the most entertaining part, in my opinion, of IBO. Is kind of like this like cat and mouse game between Tekkadan and Gallarhorn as they're trying to like maneuver their way through like the different colonies to eventually end up on Earth.
They start to introduce the fact that there are a number of different organizations and different factions. While your key things are like Gallarhorn is like a militaristic organization that is in service to the larger government body. Then you've got all of these other mercenary groups,
microcorps, basically.
Yeah. So along the way, they're meeting the Brewers.
They meet the Brewers that they also used child slave soldiers.
Right, and that's where you meet like Akihiro's brothers there in servitude, and then they beat the piss out of them, and
so we pick up a couple of really great characters.
You pick up the Gushian, which is an amazing mobile suit. Tekkadan aren't monsters. Like their goal is to be better than the people that they're fighting. So as they're fighting these other mercenary organizations, they're not going to be like, oh, dude, let's keep their slave. They tell them like, you can join up and you'll get paid and you'll be a member of the team, or you can go. Like either way,
like you're free.
Like obviously you can't just like go because you're in the middle of the
we'll drop you off
Ariadne
somewhere
or whatever. Like you gotta like get there, but we'll drop you off when we get to the next stop or whatever. So. Like they're just trying to be better, and that's why you end up with these human debris kids from the Brewers that end up. I think there's like 4 or 5 of them that become like fairly prominent for a while.
Yes.
You meet the Brewers, and then you get the Tewa stuff. You get the turbans. The turbans.
Yeah, the turbans.
Not Naze Turbans family.
Harem.
No,
family.
So I would say his family. Naze is, I think, in a lot of ways, and I'm sure Steve would probably agree. He's kind of an anime stereotype character. But I think he's an amazing guy. I think that like over the course of the series, you find that he's like a good guy.
I'd argue a great guy.
Yeah, he likes to bone down like lots of ladies. But what's her name? Main partner. She's fantastic.
Laughter's cool.
Laughter's amazing. Ozzy's awesome. Like when you bring the Turbans in, they basically become like full-time cast members for the rest of the series.
I also just love their mobile suits that they have.
They have good style. Oh, and speaking of like the style, like you look at like the Turbans ship and it's great, and it always seems like a little bit of a love den, which is fine.
It's got that like mood lighting and everything.
Yeah, well, and Naze's always got like curtains in the rooms and stuff.
Everything on that ship has an understandable feminine touch, but it still smacks of like a masculine presence. Yeah, even though he's like pretty much, unless there's Tekkadan kids there or the old man,
he's the only dude. Yeah. Well, and so like to make
or the baby.
So I think we're like hedging around it, and I'll say Naze's got a crew that is entirely comprised of women.
Yep.
All of them he has sex with and has children with.
Yep.
And I believe that if they have boys, they send them out to be raised elsewhere, and all of the women choose to be there. It was revealed way later that he had like saved them from servitude, from slavery, from like sex slavery. So they are all happy to be there. And it is a entirely mutually agreed upon arrangement. Everybody's really happy with it. And they are a great team. In a lot of ways, sort of like an amazing parallel of the Tekkadan situation, which is all boys who are all slaves as well. So like you start to see the two groups interact.
There's some budding love interests. Well, one primarily with Laughter
and Akihiro.
Yeah.
The other thing I was going to say is like the Tekkadan ship, like every time they show anything, there's like little graffiti and shit in the background, people's names or like little Tekkadan flowers.
Yeah.
Like, over time, you can tell that you've got like young boys that are just partying on this ship. They all do their jobs, but they're like just screwing around a little bit.
It's weird because it's like both ships. It's like, there's 2 families because all those boys, they're brothers and cousins, and not so much uncles, because they all all the younger dudes look up to everyone else, like to Eugene, to Mika, to
you've got your
Orga.
especially
They all
Orga,
treat them like
you've got your core older guys, So then we've joined these two parties or two families, and they're on their way.
Tekkadan ends up temporarily, from the context of the whole show, joining Tewas.
Yeah, they're basically a subsidiary of Tewas at that point. In the first season, they essentially are.
For much of the first and a tiny bit of the second, they're subsidiaries of Tewas.
Along the way, the Gjallarhorn thing's happening, and we haven't talked about my guy, McGillis Farid.
And Galileo Baldwin.
And Galileo Baldwin. So like we're following Tekkadan and we're doing all this stuff. At the same time, there are the 7 noble families of Gjallarhorn, the 7 stars, and I think they all have like a current generation of officers in Gjallarhorn. We're seeing McGillis's group attacking Tekkadan, usually as the...
Don't they also all have a Gundam?
No,
frame?
not right away.
I thought they all had a Gundam frame.
So they have Greys Schwalbs.
Yep.
Very, very German series.
Because that's where the coolest shit comes from for this. So they're sort of the group that's chasing Tekkadan. But McGillis and Galileo they're the representation of Gjallarhorn in a lot of ways. You kind of can tell all along that maybe McGillis doesn't really think that the stuff that Gjallarhorn is doing is right. Like you can kind of tell that he sees the corruption in it and he thinks that it's as a system.
And that's why he goes full on Char clone.
And Mika calls him the chocolate man because the first time they meet, they almost run over Cookie and Cracker in the field, but then he gives the kids candies when he's dressed like Pimp Char in a nice suit and sunglasses. Then he shows up as Montag.
Yeah, Montag. Discount Char.
Yeah, he reaches out and has like a secret arrangement with Tekkadan as well. So you can tell that he's playing all of the sides.
Yes.
And Galileo doesn't know that he's playing all of the sides.
It's because he wants to be in charge of Gjallarhorn.
McGillis is a great character, but his storyline is pretty convoluted and full of tragedy.
And ultimately, like, McGillis wants to take over Gjallarhorn so that he can make it better and like reformat the kind of like military police aspect that is Gjallarhorn.
Yeah, like he doesn't like the use of human debris. Like he's opposed to a lot of the bad.
And he supports the independence of Mars if it means that human debris will be treated better.
Right. He doesn't feel like the independence of Mars would get in the way of what he wants to do.
Right, because he never overtly states like that. And he suggests making Orga the king of Mars.
Right. Yeah, because he's like, dude, you guys back me up and, we'll do the thing. There's a whole collaboration going on there. And Carta Issue is the only other 7 Stars member we really see in the first season. And Carta Issue is important because, dude, they're getting attacked left and right. All of this shit's going on. And they decide that because Gjallarhorn's really buckled down security, the best way, and the Orbital Joint Fleet, it's like the longest, stupidest name on purpose. It's Carta Issue's fleet. They're chasing them, and things go bad. The way that she gets handled at the end in the snow is because of what her team did that resulted in the Biscuit situation. So they landed, and they were in the Caribbean or whatever. Mm-hmm. They were on the island. There was the big fight. Biscuit was like losing faith, and she comes out with the guys, and they're gonna they stand in a line, and she says a bunch of shit, and then Mika just starts killing people, and she's like, whoa, that's not the rules. You're not supposed to do that, but he just keeps killing people, so they run away. But in the midst of all of this, the heart of Tekkadan, the voice of reason that all the time has been like, dude, maybe we do it this way, and everybody listens. Biscuit ends up getting straight murked by one of her guys.
Yeah, that's right, because the flips the mobile worker. Orga lives, but Biscuit dies because he's inside of the mobile worker.
IBO is the first Gundam series that I watched on John's suggestion. We're sitting at the bar, John's bartending, I expressed interest. He says, you gotta watch Iron-Blooded Orphans. Okay, so I do. I start watching it. We get to that episode.
Did you
literally
cry?
Yes. 5 minutes after that episode ended, I immediately went on Facebook and typed in "Rip Biscuit." So many people sent me condolences because I think they thought it was like my dog or something.
Well,
like my cousins, my aunt.
Rip Biscuit.
I mean, dude. I I appreciate the condolences. It was heartfelt.
And it's the death of Biscuit, I think, is sort of like it precipitates like a huge shift. You take away that moral center, and now they're making more cold decisions about what they're going to do and what direction
power
they're
plays, and you get the formation of the Earth Branch and like all this stuff.
They decide the way to sneak into Alberta without getting detected and to get their mobile suits there is to go on a train.
Mm-hmm.
I think they got Gushian Rebake.
Yep.
And they've got
I think that's also the first time
it's when the
it's
the
not.
Barbatos has my favorite weapon, which is the giant pliers with a chainsaw inside of it. Well, it's not like a pliers, it's a rod with a a claw at the end of it that's got a chainsaw.
Because doesn't the Rebake eventually use that?
They used to the Rebake uses
gets
the big
the hedge clippers,
just the big pliers, yeah. But no, this was basically the thing
city.
that they used to cut the tree down next to my house. Like it's a huge
That's right.
It's a stick with a claw on it that's got a chainsaw inside of it. It's amazing. So like they got the resupply from Tewas, I think.
Yeah.
So that's when Carta shows up with however many of her dickheads she's got left. I think it's her and two dudes.
Yeah.
They think that there are like certain rules of war that are going to be followed. So they go in and engage, and once again, like
in typical Mika fashion.
Yeah, he straight murders the first guy, and she freaks out, and I believe he chops up the other guy with the claw thing. So he beats the crap out of Carta. Like,
there's a
real bad. And there's a point where all of the kids are off the train.
Yeah, Cardella's over there. They're all just like,
and Cadelia's out there, and Maribet's there, and they're like, and they're trying to get the kids not to watch because of how like brutal it is.
Because of what they think the moral baseline is. It's like kids shouldn't watch this.
Right. So they're like, dude, let's get these kids back in the train, and the kids are like, screw that. We need to see this. This is important. And
I don't think those two trying to usher them back on the train really understood that they needed to see this for their own closure with Biscuit.
Kinda, yeah. I would say that is the most, I mean, as much as like we talked about the first battle being really, really brutal, and like Mika's brutal over and over and over again. We skip the part, like when he fights the breweries, he's got the sweet katana. Like there's all kinds of stuff.
Mika's got two settings, on and off.
Yeah. And
the battle against the mobile armor, which happens after this.
And I would say that the way that he dispatches the last of Carta and her troops from the super long name fleet, which is the fleet that McGillis ends up in command of. I think it's the most brutal scene in the first season. This is when you find out that Gaelio has taken out the Baudouin family's Gundam out of storage at the Gjallarhorn base. So they have a vault. Every one of the 7 Stars families has their Gundam, and they've put them into deep storage as like an act of good faith that they're not going to use them because they're old technology and they're sort of kind of like forbidden. So like he has taken the Chimaris out of deep storage and shows up doing the cool, like, well, I think he already used it in space a little bit, but he does the cool hover leg thing on the snow, and he saves Carta. And while he's getting away, like carrying Carta, and she's dying, like drowning in her own blood in her cockpit, she is crying for McGillis because they grew up together and she had always loved McGillis. And she ends up dying.
I mean, and that like directly leads to Gaelio getting his ass beat and then getting thrown into the Alea Vignata.
So we end up in Alberta, or what? Is it Calgary that they?
I think they go to Calgary.
Well, so when they get there,
Gjallarhorn's put a blockade to try to prevent that, to basically
prevent him
stall
from getting
until
in.
the vote has to
So
happen.
they spend, I think it's a full week in like a battle of attrition with Gjallarhorn, where they're sending mobile workers and they're doing all kinds of shit just to try to get people in. But this becomes one of like my favorite battles in the entire series because we end up with all the shit that goes down.
the battle in Alberta.
We get Gushian, like Rebake is there. You get Barbatos is there being kick-ass. Shino's using the Greys at that point. Yep. Laughter and Ozzy are there. And there's like a moment where you absolutely believe that like Laughter has been killed and Shino has been killed when Ein shows up as basically a cyborg super Gundam that's like twice the size.
Yeah.
Mika ends up fighting Ein, but McGillis shows up and reveals to Gaelio, like, guess what, guy? We're not buddies anymore. And he's in my favorite mobile suit of the entire series, which is the Grimgard. It's it's another German name.
Yep.
It's another Valkyrie name. So that mobile suit is, and man, I got the deets here. That mobile suit is one of 11 Valkyrie frames that were designed concurrently with the development of the Gundam frames. And they are actually the prototype on which the Greys was built. And it's a forbidden machine. Nobody's supposed to have it or use it. And McGillis shows up in it. It's red as hell. He's properly shard up, and he's wearing a white dress shirt, red tie, and a black vest.
Yeah, that's right.
Just cool as hell.
That's right. He goes level, like full frontal level of.
And he beats the piss out of Galileo and tells him he was always his friend, but he's in his way and it's going to be done. And essentially kills Galileo in that moment. Mm-hmm. So we're left to believe at the season break that Char is going to turn fully. Char.
Did it. I got it.
Got him. So we're left to believe that McGillis is going to be on our side at that point.
Yeah. So while McGillis and Galileo are battling, Mika and Ayn, their battle is just... it's brutal. It's hard to put it into words.
And it rolls into the city where they're not supposed to be.
Right.
It evolves into this city brawl. And I've always loved city combat in a Gundam series because the stakes are always higher. They're trying to avoid causing unnecessary casualties. And Mika just goes feral animal.
On the bright side, I think that they had evacuated the city for the most part. There weren't residents in there.
That's fair.
Not like in the beginning of F91 where people are just getting domed with bullet casings and shit.
We see Mika probably for the first time go full linkage with the Barbatos, where they become one entity.
It's when he first takes off the barrier.
The inhibition.
Yeah.
It's basically where he gets the demon moniker.
I think that's kind of the thing about the Gundam frames and the LA Vignana and the way that they were used to fight the mobile armors in the Calamity War. It was this idea of, in order to stop these things, we basically have to become these things. Mm-hmm. I think that it's kind of implied that to some extent, the Gundams have their own personality, their own AI.
Well, at the time when
you definitely see that Barbatos has its own personality.
Right, but Mika really starts talking to it like it's his buddy and pal, not so much we can do it. You need more performance. I was no, he's now talking to it first person, hey buddy, how's it going? Let's do this.
Yeah, come on Barbatos, we got to do this. We need to.
And he's all right, I'll give you more.
Yeah,
and we'll do it.
And we very quickly learn that linking like that causes lasting damage. It's not huge in this fight. We definitely get a lot of
I believe it's incremental.
we get a lot of Mikazuki's issues after he fully dives into it when they're fighting the mobile armor in season 2.
I wonder if you would have 15, still kind of risky, but why don't we load one more up on, give me one or two more spines.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
I think Mika would have volunteered if Orga would have just kind of been hey buddy, you want to do it?
Yeah, I don't think he needed it.
No, but he would, I think.
But the results of this are that Mika, because of his deep sink or whatever, loses the ability to use his right arm. And he wins. They get Makanai in there. Got it. They get Makanai in.
I remember.
And then he recognizes Cadelia, and
she gives a beautiful speech about.
And Tewaz respects Tekkadan enough that they become their own organization instead of just a subsidiary of Turbines. Gjallarhorn kind of backs off a little bit,
especially because Galileo ends up becoming.
Well, he's believed dead at that
or not
point.
Galileo, sorry.
McGillis steps in, so he has more of a.
He becomes the de facto head of the Baldwin family because he marries the younger sister.
Engages to
yes.
Almeria, Galileo's little sister. Oh, that's right. We forgot to mention that McGillis is engaged to the 11-year-old.
Yeah.
He's just a decent dude who understands that as the heir of another Seven Stars family, he is likely to be he's going to be married to this heir of this other Seven Stars family, and it's totally normal. At least they're not cousins or anything,
right?
Especially since he's adopted.
Yep.
But so we go into the second season, and it's establishing a lot of things. It's establishing the personalities and the missteps and stuff. But these younger members of Tekkadan, you get a lot of Chad. You get a lot of Aston or whatever.
Yeah, Aston.
And who was he with? Ride, or was he with? He was hanging out with Yamagi.
There we go.
And Yamagi was paying for his sister to go to private school and stuff.
Wasn't there Takagi also there as well?
Yeah, maybe you're right.
It's
Takaki's the one that's got the dark underhair and the blonde over.
Takagi is the one with the sister.
Oh, okay.
He's the one that ends up becoming the Earth Branch's lead person.
Right.
And in the flashback, he ends up working for some government official.
When I was watching the show as it was airing, this was that first 10 or 12 episodes of season 2 is where I was like struggling to be interested.
Yeah,
because
you
really,
get that like
really,
whole war on Earth thing between a bunch of different.
And it's this like they're trying to manipulate things, and you got that dickhead guy in the leather jacket
that
who's
cuts
trying,
off Tekkadan from being able to talk to the Earth
so, like,
branch from
there's all that
Tekkadan.
goofy stuff. It really felt like that chunk of the series was like padding episodes.
Yep.
Like I understand that a lot of the goal was to develop a lot of those younger characters and show and like humanize people a little bit more and show that they were becoming a more of an organization. I mean, Orga's doing like his politicking and like meeting with leaders and shit like that.
There's a lot of fleet battles in season 2.
And yeah, Kujan, who's like the worst person that's ever been in a Gundam. I would say in any Gundam series.
He's also just a whiny bitch.
He's terrible. He's responsible for the mobile armor awakening.
Yep.
And killing a bunch of people. He's responsible for laughter. He's responsible for nausea. He's responsible for he is awful. He's awful.
And he's like constantly trying to like prove himself to Rustle.
Yeah, and which is why he keeps doing all this shit that keeps getting cool people killed.
And then Rustle's just like,
he's like, shut up, dude. Sit down. I think that Kujan was one of those guys that the head of his family, the head of the Kujan family must have died. So he's like now the head of the family, but he's a kid. Like he's like 16 or something, and he's a dipshit. But we see all of that stuff. And I think that the second season doesn't really get anywhere until the mobile armor gets discovered on Mars, and they dig it up. Shit goes crazy. McGillis is like, dude, don't go near it. He's a student of the Calamity War, so he knows all the rules. He's like, don't bring your mobile suits, don't get near it. We'll take cars, we'll go check it out. And then Kujan shows up, and what we learn is that these mobile armors, and this is honestly why I would love to see a Calamity War series, these mobile armors wake up, they activate in reaction to Ahab waves. Mm-hmm. So they can sense, not even Ahab waves, just generators in general. Yes. Because it's Kujan's Regenlays, I think is his mobile suit that gets in there. As soon as he gets close, it wakes up and just starts killing shit. Yeah. Just all kinds of shit. It's wrecking house all over the place. It's shooting out those little thingies, the little stupid things that are like the fleet of little, what are they called?
I don't know what they're called, but it's mostly it's just shooting out scarabs.
And that's when they unveil the Flauros with Shino piloting.
And it's so dumb too that he is partial commander of the Ariane-Rod fleet. And you're like, you're an idiot.
He's super stupid.
You have control over a portion of the Ariane-Rod fleet, which is the biggest Gallarhorn fleet.
The biggest. Period. It is the biggest, yeah. The second is the one that McGillis took over. Yeah.
Right.
And it's ridiculously unnecessarily long name.
Stop being stupid.
So he's responsible for the activation of that mobile armor. He's responsible for a whole bunch of bad shit that happens along with that. But we see the activation of the Flauros Gundam for Shino, which was found in the pit with the mobile armor. And then they rebuilt it and whatever. And when Flauros uses its primary weapon, which is a linear cannon, essentially, they use the linear cannon. And that moment actually predicates the way that Russell Elion basically cheats his way to winning in the end. Because doing that allowed him to justify the use of the Dying Slave, which ruins everything for everybody.
Wasn't that weapon she was using, that was super contraband as well?
No. So it was essentially what would be a Dying Slave launcher.
Oh, it's
they didn't use the it's like a uranium
right, but there's something
rod that they fire with it.
Right.
But they used a projectile like a regular cannon instead. So they didn't actually violate the treaty, but it was just enough for Rustle to argue that they had.
Right.
So at that point, everybody's
use it, yeah.
Right. So then at that point, everybody's like, dude, Tekkadan's bad guys, dude. They're using forbidden shit. They violated the treaty. They're doing everything awful. Everything goes to shit really, really quickly. Everything's bad for everybody. Everybody's scattered, and you got kids stuck on Earth. You got the kids stuck on Mars. When they're fighting, sorry, I forgot. When they're fighting the Angel, Mika goes further.
Goes full sicko mode.
Basically uses the Grimgaird's massive sword and shit to chop up the Angel, and he loses it even more.
I'll say he loses control over his
entire right side, leg and arm. He can function normally as long as he's plugged into Barbatos. So he spends a lot of season 2
attached,
hanging out in the cockpit, eating sandwiches and.
Well, and at some point
with an extended extension.
I would say at some point too, they give him an extension cord so he can kind of go out.
Floats around a little bit. Maybe he's he does a lot of talks with Atra, who we didn't talk about earlier, who was a girl from Mars who was clearly in love with Mika all along, and but she becomes the Tekkadan cook and she's there and whatever. So He hangs
we
out
get
with
this
Atra
funny
a lot.
love triangle
Yeah,
with
Mika,
Mikazuki.
Cadelia, and Atra do like a mini turbans thing.
So clinical
also-
about it too.
But yeah, so like when things go sideways, like Tekadon basically has to break their plate and leave Tewaz because otherwise Tewaz is like in the shit.
We get Mika and Asta making babies.
Like she wants to have a baby, and he's like, yeah, that'd be cool. I'd kind of like to have one. Yeah, we should do that. And she was like, whoa, I mean like now? Like, dude, I didn't mean like now because she's like 14 or something.
Yeah.
They don't show that, but like while he's plugged in, they clearly do it.
I definitely loved the like, there's something up with you in this like second half of the season to Atra.
Oh, because she's knocked up at that point.
Yeah, like they're doing like you have a certain glow about you.
Mhm.
And then Cadelia's just like,
she's doing the classic pregnant look, like the baggy sweatshirts and stuff.
yeah.
I mean, she always wore baggy, but it like got baggier.
There's a lot of human behavior, a lot of like
we get a
genuine
clear and
human
distinct Yuri at the end of the thing with Cadelia and
no. All this human. No, anyway,
I almost lost it.
all this human stuff is very, very good to see that they're like in the midst of all this. Like these are kids that are trying to like grow up and become adults in the midst of being like forced to be at war. We got to a point where like Tekadon was hiring people on contracts instead of like just working with who they had.
Kind of funny because at that point, the Tekadon is almost an analog for the French Foreign Legion.
Oh yeah, you think so?
Because the French Foreign Legion, when you join it, you get a new name, you get a new social security number, but you're on the hook for 5 years and you're learning French.
Okay, all right.
So like you sign this 5-year contract, man, new identity, new everything. Like so, French Foreign Legion is an option for many people internationally to just be like, you know what? I'm a wanted man in this country. Time to go.
We learn in this entire development of all these secondary characters that all of the human debris, because they don't have names, like they don't have true names, they have all taken Akihiro's last name. So they are all Atlans. So like when Aston dies, he's Aston Atlan. Like every member of the Brewers that joined the Tekadon, they all took Akihiro's last name. There's little stuff like that I think really shows the human side of what's going on. And I think the second season is a lot more about the human effect of what they've been doing. We're seeing all of this progress. You know, the mobile armor thing happens, everything breaks apart. There's been a pilot named Vidar who's out there like in a super dope mobile suit, but they can't recognize the energy signature from it. We get to a point where Vidar's been around and Julieta's been around, and then we've got like a bunch of like supporting characters that are kind of in the background. And then we get to the point where McGillis basically makes his move. And his move is kind of stupid.
Yep.
Because it seems so like little kid, and it doesn't really fit with how much of like honestly like a good tactician he really is. He had done all this research and he found this rule in Gjallarhorn that whoever pilots Bile, which is Gundam Frame 01 that was piloted by Agnika Kairu during the Calamity War, which was the great hero of the Calamity War, the founder of Gjallarhorn. Whoever pilots that Gundam will be recognized as the leader of Gjallarhorn, which is so insane, right? Like he figures out that the original Gundam frames did in fact use the Alea Vignana. So the reason that nobody's been able to pilot the Bile is because they've outlawed the Alea Vignana.
Right, and the suit is not...
McGillis, being a badass, as an adult, gets the surgery. And he goes to Gjallarhorn headquarters, and he goes into the vault, and he hops into Bile, and he activates that thing. And dude, what a killer. He launches that, and at that time, it is revealed that Gaelio is in fact Vidar, and that the Vidar mobile suit is actually the Chimaris. And the Ein drive was the reason they couldn't recognize the entire drive signature from Chimaris. So then that leads to a really, really big fight between the two of them, because now we find that that Gaelio didn't die. He just got some sweet scars and some emo hair.
Hell yeah, and gets a sick ass face mask.
But then, you know, we're at a sprint at that point. You know, along the line here, we're seeing things like Kujan like uses what's his name, Jasly or whatever, the dickhead from Taiwaz, to try to screw everybody over, and which results in the turbans getting killed. The turbans basically, you know, Nazi gets killed, Amida gets killed. They smuggle all the girls over to the Tekadon ship to try to save them. Shino gets killed. Laughter gets assassinated while she's buying a teddy bear that reminded her of Akihiro.
Yeah, that grumpy looking bear.
Orga goes, who's he? He was
Orga
protecting.
goes doing what he's always
He was
doing.
protecting Atra, I think.
No, he was protecting.
Or was it Ride?
It was not Ride. It was
because he like wraps himself around somebody.
It's Takagi.
It's Takagi. Okay.
Yeah.
So he like takes a bunch of bullets in the back, and then he turns around and like fires off a bunch of shots with Mika's handgun. Because
Atra and Cadelia come out and see him like walking, like we gotta
and then he
go.
like falls.
We gotta go. Like
gives his last inspirational speech.
But in the end, like you lose Orga, and it just becomes like, all right, we're doing a last stand, and they basically get trapped at CGS where the first battle happened. They get trapped there, and their goal is, how do we smuggle the people out to the city on Mars, Cresce, I think it is, to get them off world without them getting killed by Gallarhorn too. Because at this point, like, Gallarhorn and all the assholes have convinced everybody that Tekkadan have like broken all kinds of laws, and they're awful. They come up with a plan to like use an old mine shaft, I believe it is, to like smuggle everybody out. The distraction to use along the way, all the best dudes go out and do all the best shit.
They literally get the end of Halo Reach, like Objective Survive.
I have not talked about Eugene enough. Eugene piloted their ship, and in the end, Eugene gets to pilot Orga's mobile suit, his white mobile suit, which is badass. So they go out, and
it's Eugene, Mikazuki, and Akihiro.
Hush goes out. Like, it's all the supporting guys are all out there, too. Hush dies. Like, it's a lot. Yeah. And Barbatos Lupus Rex, which is basically a feral monster.
Yep.
Gushion Rebake Full City, which is super duper badass.
With the hedge clippers of death.
The hedge clippers. So we get two battles at the end. We've got episode 49 is the McGillis and Gaelio Baldwin battle, which, dude, Kimaris Vidar is the final form of Kimaris against the Bile. Dude. Okay, Bile is amazing because it doesn't even have any guns. It just has two gold swords.
Yep.
If you pay attention, is the way that McGillis had kitted out everything all along. The Kimaris Vidar has like rapiers with disposable blades out of like hip holsters. They do what I always love in a Gundam show, and they do a space battle between where they're fighting, where they're taking out big ships and they're bouncing between them, and they are hacking each other to pieces, and they are having a best friend fight the way that they're supposed to. And it's heartbreaking because like you at this point you realize that McGillis his whole life has been this plan, and I think at this point he kind of realizes like this was stupid. Like I lost like all the things that really matter, and this is stupid.
Yeah.
But he's like, dude, I still gotta win though, because here I am, you know? So they have this massive throwdown, and it ends the way that only a proper best friend Gundam fight should end, which is both of their Gundams are so fucked up that they have to deboard and chase each other through a fleet ship.
They do the Abaoku thing from the end of Mobile Suit, where Char and Amuro are chasing each other through.
Yeah.
And then have a rapier battle.
They end up in this hallway, and McGillis gets all lit up, and Gaelio's all lit up as well. But like the last thing he says to him is that he was always his true friend. Like in the end, I think that McGillis realized that the worst thing he had done of all the things was betray the best friend that trusted him.
Mm-hmm.
When he dies saying that, Gaelio loses his shit, because then he's like, oh my God, I just killed the only guy that actually gives a shit about me.
Yeah.
So that was like a rough one for me because, you know, Mackey's my guy.
Mm-hmm.
But it rounded out like McGillis's absurd plan, but their relationship as best friends really was a big thing. And at least in that, it acknowledges them being best friends as opposed to like Char and Amuro, who clearly were in love with each other. And they never address it. The Battle of Cresce on Mars is a whole other thing. Like you got all these guys in these Tekkadan suits, and they're all throwing down. They're doing well, and they're going against an entire like fleet of Gallarhorn grazes and shit. And they're doing some work. They were killing the shit out of them, and they were winning until Elion uses the cheater move.
Yeah, he uses the depleted
and
uranium
dumps the Dying Slave uranium rods down on the entire battlefield. Kills a bunch of his own dudes in the process, whatever. And that is when we see...
Elion is a war criminal.
The thing is, at that moment, you see Barbatos is, I think it has no arms, maybe it's got one arm, like it's all jacked up.
Yeah.
Still has its legs, but it has its tail.
Mm-hmm.
And it is like full monster, like the glowing red eyes, full monster. And Gushion's there, but it's pretty beat up as well. When they show Akihiro, for one, super shredded at that point.
Yup.
when they show him in the cockpit, when they wake up after the Dine Slaves, and he's like got blood coming down his face, he's got so many like chunks of metal stuck into his body. He looks like he's got spines all over him.
Yeah.
But he's like, yeah, let's go. Let's just do it. And he's like bleeding out of his
force
face.
of will. And it's like, if they removed any of those chunks of metal, he'd instantly bleed out.
Yeah.
Adrenaline's a hell of a drug.
Akihiro does the thing that I believe it was the kill heard round the world. I believe I watched this as it aired. I did a watch party of the entire series during the COVID shutdown with like a group of people and watched everybody lose their shit at this moment, like in the excited way. It is possibly the greatest moment in the entire show after seeing like all of the awful things that he had done. Yakujan sees that everybody's pretty much beaten, so he shoots in there and is Regan-lays to like take credit for the win and finish off one of the Gundams that's already busted up, and he makes a poor choice. He does the dumbest thing that he could do, because they can all hear each other on like comms apparently.
Yeah.
He shoots in there and he announces who he is and that he's going to claim this win for Gjallarhorn. He says that he's Yakujan and our main motherfucker, well, our secondary motherfucker, Akihiro says, "Did you say your name is Yakujan?" And he goes apeshit. And what he does, again, one of the greatest moments ever, he reaches behind him into the dust and he grabs the hobby nipper of death and swings this thing up.
He grabs his god hands.
And he grabs that Regan-lays with this giant pair of pliers right around the cockpit. And we get to see Yakujan go from comfortable guy to maybe less comfortable guy to red goo in that cockpit.
Yeah, we watch him turn into paste.
And in that moment, Akihiro is happy that he has gotten his revenge on the guy responsible for killing the one person that he truly loved. And he just dies.
Yeah.
He's like, all right, dude, I'm good. And he taps out.
He goes to the big mobile suit in the sky.
Yeah, like, way to go, dude. I hope that there are huge weight sets up there. Just keep lifting, guy.
There's just a laughter sitting there with pre-workout in one hand and like some protein for recovery in the other, just hanging out. Freaking Eye of the Tiger playing in the background.
But that being said, Akihiro and Laughter loved doing like mock battle, like training simulations against each other as well. We see Mika do the Mika, where he's basically dead. He's basically like a flesh husk in the middle of the Barbatos.
And like just
Barbatos is being awesome.
Fully gives in.
The tail is ripping things to pieces. It's pulling heads off of stuff. It's making squeaky like crazy noises. It's growling.
I was saying, doesn't it start like growling and roaring?
The tail does the squeaky noise, but then it's also like growling, and it's full demon mode. I believe it's Julieta that finally gets him in the end, and when she finally like spears the Gundam, the cockpit cover falls off, and she can see that he's limp, lifeless, covered in blood, but he's got his bracelets on.
Yep.
His Atra bracelet and his Cadelia bracelet. And then he's dead, and that's it. Gjallarhorn claims victory, and they say that the demons of Tekkadan have been killed, though they had been successful in smuggling all those people out of those tunnels. It's an interesting sort of feeling to have the good guys lose, but they don't really. The truth of it is, like, their mission, like their goals, like their philosophy wins in the end.
Yeah, a portion of the status quo is maintained, but in the same vein, too, there are changes. The main heads of Gjallarhorn don't change.
Right, but in the end, what Rustle ends up doing, even though he's an absolute war criminal, he does all the shit that McGillis was going to do.
Yeah, that's true.
He does all the changes to Gjallarhorn. He changes and he gives Mars their independence. Like he pushes through all of the stuff that the good guys wanted, but he gets to take credit for it.
I find that the end of IBO is just kind of like shitty people going to be shitty people. And they're just going to take credit for the ideas that people that genuinely had the idea just didn't know how to execute it properly.
They do go through a nice checklist of all the supporting characters and where they've ended up. And you see like Eugene's got his job and Chad's got his job and Takagi's got his job.
They change their names and everything.
Yeah, right. They're all war criminals. Yeah. And you see that Cadelia ends up like president or whatever.
Yeah,
and
President Mars.
And you see Atra pregnant. She's in the
she
end.
has kids.
You see the kid. You see the
kid.
kid. You see they have the kid. And Akatsuki, super adorable. Small, big hands like Mikazuki. Same face with Atra's hair color, essentially. And it seems that it's implied that, Atra's running the farm, which is what Mikazuki said he wanted to do. And Cadelia is basically her domestic life partner. I don't know. Like,
Yeah.
It seems like they're raising Akatsuki together.
Yes.
Maybe not in a romantic sense, but like together they're raising.
Because Mika made Cadelia promise that she would help raise.
Oh, okay.
Once they both revealed to
Cadelia
that they did the deed, Mikazuki's like, I'm probably gonna die. Help raise my kid, please.
Right.
And Cadelia promised, like, yes, I will.
And Cadelia keeps her word. She's good like that. And so in the end, like, it goes where it's supposed to, but like the people die along the way. And we see Ride turn into a straight badass at the end, where he finds Noblest Gordon was the guy who had like basically from the beginning had screwed over Cadelia.
Yeah,
yes.
He was like the puppet.
He's the one
schemer.
who initially planned for her to be assassinated. I like that in that like flash forward, like Ride is, you can tell he's older.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't like right away because he was one of the younger kids. Honestly, through the progression of the entire series, you see these characters age.
Yes.
And you see, like I said, the guys get like way huger. I think that there's a lot to it that succeeds in ways that other Gundam shows don't. And I think that the age progression is a big part of it. I think that the use of like salvaging equipment and repurposing it, I think is a big part of it. And I think that, there are genuine human errors, like that are believable human errors that characters make. Decisions that are sort of influenced by their emotions that like have catastrophic results.
I mean, Orga does a lot of decision making with his emotions rather than being logical. And a character that we forgot to talk about, the blonde-haired chick, like chastises him several times.
Oh, Maribit?
Maribit, yeah.
In the first season, when they were going headed to Earth, when they stopped off at Dort, they're like, "Hey, can we spend some money?" Like, we're gonna get fresh, clean clothes.
And it was Cadelia going to buy soap.
Yeah, like we need to clean these bugs up.
I mean, I think there's
Damn,
a lot.
these kids stank.
I think there are little human accents here and there that are fun. I like when I think it's Cookie and Cracker. When they pick up the yellow tomato and they're like, "This one looks like a butt." Like that one's pretty good. That's great. I send it to my wife sometimes because why not? I like when early on when Cadelia wants to help when they're still at CGS when she wants to help Atra making food and she's making soup, which is a really telling thing. Soup is a thing that you make when you got to feed a lot of people and you don't have a lot of food.
Yep.
So I think that was a cool detail in there as well. But she's making the soup and she's not good with the knife. So she doesn't cut the vegetables very well. And then they give it to Mika and she's embarrassed and she's like, "No, don't let him have it." And he's like, "No, I like it better this way. There's more food in it."
Right.
And he eats those weird palm seeds or whatever the hell they are. And then once in a while he gives one to like the girls and like they're always like, "Oh," and he's like, "Oh, you must have got a bad one."
Like,
why is it always a bad one?
Maybe they're all bad ones.
That's the sign of a sociopath. Not
like
having.
He just doesn't care. It's fuel.
Or just not having the taste bud distinction.
I like the idea that we're looking at a story that is done. I think to create any continuation, you'd have to really do a disservice to anything. Like, I've seen some people online that talk about like how they want to see a show where Akatsuki's a pilot. And I'm like, no, we don't want that, because the whole point was that they wanted to have a kid who could have a life better than they have. I mean, that's kind of the goal of a lot of most people that have kids. But I think that continuing the story in any way takes away from how the story ended.
I kind of agree with you. I wouldn't want to see a continuation. I like that as the end of the story.
I want to see a Calamity War. Because of the way that the history is told during the series, there's a lot about the Calamity War that I think is really fascinating, that could really be portrayed really, really well. I think that there is a heavily implied dose of the history is written by the winners kind of thing to it. And I think that they sort of paint Agnika Kairu as this like amazing like King Arthur style hero. So I think in those areas specifically, I think it would be interesting to see Agnika Kairu be either a total like shallow selfish prick, or by the end be essentially like the meat sack that Mika is. And I think that that's kind of the point. You're supposed to understand that like they don't talk about him as a person ever. They talk about him as a symbol of Gallarhorn. Right. I think that maybe there was a lot more awful stuff that was going on or that was inflicted upon the people, that the pilots that won the Calamity War.
It would just also be cool to see all 72 Gundam frames.
Right. Like I said, I think that we're like a third or halfway through them being revealed.
Think of how many toys Bandai could sell.
It would be fascinating to see the Calamity War depicted in such a way that it is very, very different from the way that the Gallarhorn history books say it happened. They like looked at the end of the Calamity War and said, "All right, how do we spin this to give us a good justification for what we're going to do. And as a whole, Gjallarhorn's not a bad organization. They're just suffering from the same thing that like our government is suffering from, like, which is if something stays the same for too long, people learn how to take advantage of the flaws in it and abuse it, and then the value of it is gone. Like,
right.
I think that government in any context is beholden to scrutiny and updates and improvements. So like Gjallarhorn is the bad guy because they didn't do that. And by the end, they have made those changes. They've done those things that had they been growing and improving all along, none of this would have happened.
Right.
I think it's really a smart sort of underlying like framework.
You can definitely take IBO as this like warning. This is what happens when governments stay stagnant. This is a story of humanity versus machine, and like what makes one human, what makes one machine.
I think that it's smart in that way, and I think that it steps aside from a lot of regular Gundam stuff in that sort of context. Like I think that, you know, especially you guys, you know, watching all this Universal Century stuff, it's a lot of like war is bad stuff, and that's an important message. But I think maybe the thing that I liked about it most was rather than like rehashing the same formula, I think that, you know, as much as we can say that, yeah, Mika's like your magic pilot character,
right?
He's not, and I think that this storyline does better than a traditional Gundam.
Yeah, and there
series
definitely
in
was
that
none of the like the friendship is magic stuff that the Universal Century does suffer from. I know that's been Steve's biggest gripe about the Universal Century is that at the end of almost every series or movie, it's like friendship is magic. The new type saves the day because
the spirit of the support of your friends like gives you superpowers and like, yeah, that kind of stuff. Yeah, and I think that this is a better, like more
mature.
Real technology is like real military technology is the thing. The fact that there's no beam weapons, there's no beam sabers, no laser rifles. Like this is all traditional weaponry. I think.
Not gonna lie, I do love the beam sabers.
You get into those like nerd discussions. I don't get into it, but you get into those nerd discussions online where people are like, "Oh, you know, which Gundam is the strongest? Oh, it's gonna be." Someone will bring up Barbatos and they're like, "Oh, it doesn't even have, you know, like a beam weapon's gonna kill it." Like they have nanolaminate armor, so no, the beam weapon's not gonna kill it. But like. A lot of people struggled with the idea of like traditional melee weapons and like projectile weapons instead of super like hyper futuristic weapons. I think that's a benefit to this show. It grounded it in a way.
I mean, that was the cool part about Xeon for the longest time is that they did have primarily more kinetic weapons than they did.
They're super big, oversized Lewis gun looking
machine
rifles.
Guns, yep.
Yeah.
And then their bazookas.
Yep.
That was all kinetic. That
what was
all...
the mega bazooka launcher? What is the one that Hyakushiki had in Zeta? The super big gun that had like it stood on the back of it.
Oh yeah. No, the mega bazooka launcher was from Stardust Memories.
Oh, is that the one that Unit 2 had?
Iron-Blooded Orphans has a more respect for physics.
I mean, obviously, of all the Gundam,
right?
As I've told Steve before, Hathaway's the first time that they consulted actual scientists about like how mobile suits would behave in the atmosphere and stuff. So like that stuff is really, really cool. But like I think it's on the same level as what you're saying. I like that you can see when they're moving, you can see the weight of what they're moving.
Well, case in point, like the Hammerhead and the Asterobi, when they're like, yeah, we're just gonna harpoon that motherfucker in turn.
Yeah.
Like, well, right, because you have too much inertia to...
Dude, which is a Eugene move.
Yeah, because Eugene is just
where they shoot the harpoons and they slingshot around it and drop all the little mobile workers onto it. Oh, that was really great.
Yeah, that was like...
And Eugene's got his bloody nose and
he's
his tie. Man, what a guy.
Eugene's a
Which
badass.
is cool because he's hooked in to the ship.
Yeah.
Like, man, they'll just hook you guys into anything.
Everybody else is like, getting plugged into a mobile worker. And, oh, I'm in a Gundam. And Eugene's like I'm in the shrimp here, dude. The Isaribi.
Also, when you're talking about like when they're fighting and with the kicking up like snow and stuff to blinds, you can see that they paid attention to detail because you watch all those Grazes fighting and how they move around versus like the Barbados, any one of the kids piloting because they're hooked in, way more organic. Way more fun.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like one, it gives you the nod to like, yeah, it's a superior control mechanism.
Yeah, and it's interesting because like how much they had improved their control interface for those Grazes and stuff in the interim. You know, like even be close to being able to compete with an Alea Vignana system. I think that in a lot of ways the Alea Vignana was the new type all along.
Cyber. That'd be like basically the equivalent of a cyber new type.
I didn't say it, but every suit that McGillis pilots is amazing.
They all look dope.
Yeah, they are sick.
Even his Gray's Schwalbe, which is purple.
I think I have that kit.
It's a hot one.
We love.
No, his is blue. McGillis is purple.
We
I built his blue one.
We love purple suits. I
do the
almost all the purple mobile suits.
What
have
about?
just been awesome.
Isn't there a really nice purple one in Narrative?
Not
You just
narrative.
watched it.
Unicorn.
Is it in Unicorn?
Yeah.
Okay.
Angelo's.
Angelo. Yeah. All right. Yeah.
Angelo
that is
has
Unicorn,
like 3 different purple mobile suits that are just cool.
And doesn't he have like purple hair too?
It's like
Oh, it's
lavender.
like grayish lavender.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that IBO it's a
solid show.
it's a really special one. I think it's a great Gundam show.
I think it was a really good place to start
And
because
that-
it's self-contained.
That's what I was gonna say. Like when Adam asked about it years ago, I think that it was a good reference because like even when you watch a thing like Seed, it doesn't work unless you have some Gundam knowledge. Even though it is like a complete retelling in its own timeline, it just doesn't work as well. I think that this one is different enough and distinct enough.
Well, it has nothing to do with the Universal Century.
Well, or anything else, but like I think that it's so distinctly different from any other Gundam.
Isn't Seed technically a different version of the UC?
I've always said that Seed feels like a full-on retelling of the original Gundam. I think that Kira is a more likable version of Amuro, which isn't hard. Your good standalones, I think IBO is a good standalone. Like as much as I love Wing, IBO is a better series than Wing. When I rewatch Wing, there are long stretches where I'm like, dude, this is a slog. Like they're really doing some really bland shit. When I watch Double O, the first season of Double O, I think is like spectacular, and the second season is like the most Gundam show that's been made in the last 20 years. I find like the quality where I can find it. The movies and stuff. Yeah, I mean, Steve knows I've talked. Like I love Char's Counterattack. I love F91. The standalones are the big ones, and that's when you're going to get the things that you're going to pick up new audience. I think Iron-Blooded Orphans, as much as I don't think it was hugely successful here or Japan. It was before they started doing concurrent releases internationally. It was maybe even like shortly before the concurrent releases.
I know Witch of Mercury picked up a lot.
And Witch from Mercury is
people.
a good show, but it's nowhere near as good. I think that Witch from Mercury benefits from being a shorter show as well. I think that people are intimidated with the length of the different series. But in terms of like stuff that I've recommended to people, like people that like Addam that I've recommended Gundam stuff to, I think IBO is the one that brings in the most people. And I think that if that's the case, like they go and they watch other stuff and they're like, well, this is fine. Like it has a very different tone.
I mean, from IBO, I went and watched the original Mobile Suit.
The original Gundam?
Yes.
And how did that feel?
I loved it.
Really?
I loved OG Mobile Suit. Well, thank you all. I hope you enjoyed our wonderful discussion about Iron-Blooded Orphans. As always, make sure you ring that bell so you get notifications about when we do one-off episodes like this. Check out our Discord, our socials. Check us out on wherever you listen to our podcast and pay attention to any little side fun stuff that we may do. Sometimes Steve releases shorts when he's not being lazy.
Wow, shots fired.
As always, thank you for listening, and we hope you guys enjoyed the episode.